Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer. He's on the East Coast. We're looking at best bets on a Wednesday here in the NBA as we roll along. Make sure to subscribe to that page. We've also got Play a Props bets up for you in a separate episode. So want to continue to follow along all season with us. Give that video a like if you are getting anything out of this season. Looking pretty good so far in the young season for the kids. Nate, let's go ahead and just jump right into your first best bet here for Wednesday.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because I think you were leaning towards the Magic, and I think I was thinking about it too, but I'm ready to zag on this and just take the Clippers at home. Another +3 with the money line, split the unit here, which we've done now like 3 shows in a row, trying to identify wrong team favored. I'm not saying the Magic are a bad team. I just think it's a spot to get off them here after they won 6 straight. They continue the road trip, back-to-backs in LA. They're not a team you want to back on the road. Like, there's a sample size back to last year, especially as road dogs, only 26% straight up, 88% when they're home favorites. So huge difference. That's obviously when they have Paolo in there. They've been great recently with Franz kind of lighting teams up. I mean, if you look at the strength of schedule, though, like, it is very, very sad. And then an injured Pacers team that they scraped by, a very injured Suns team, and then 4 just like garbage teams right now. Franz now going up against the master game planners, I will call them. That Clippers coaching staff is just amazing. I mean, Jeff Van Gundy in there as the defensive coordinator under Ty Lue. They just have so many minds figuring out how to limit your best player. And I don't think Franz is quite ready for that mental game. And now Norman Powell being out is scary to a degree because you got to find points against this Magic team. But now you get more athletes on the wing to deal with Franz, right? Man might start. You got Coffee, you got KPJ, etc. Even Batum with his savvy, rangy arms. And if Franz is not getting it cooking, like the Magic, I don't care if the Clippers aren't going to score a ton. Like the Magic are not going to be able to get to 100. And it's about the D for me in terms of how the Clippers have been winning. You talk about home road splits. They're 5-0 at home after the rocky start here. That Intuit Dome is more of a home court advantage than the old crypto Staples Center, it appears. And it's been the defense at home that's been lights out, again, because of the game planning, but some of the personnel. Zoo is a legit rim protector, and the Magic are not going to scare you from the perimeter, so you can pack this in. They've been 4th in three-point percentage, despite doing a great job on the interior as well, and forcing a ton of turnovers, which, I think if you look at the Magic and where they're going to struggle, if Franz is kind of getting flustered with this defense, I think they're going to be very inefficient with the ball, turn it over, and that'll get LA going the other way.
I understand all of it. I like the zag. I mean, it can seem too obvious to take Orlando. I can't back them without Powell. I think that's really what it came down to for me, was like Norm Powell being out. I just don't trust this team to score even in transition. The thing that I do believe in with Orlando is that defense travels. They're not winning based on the strength of their offense. They're winning based on the strength of their defense. They've played poo-poo competition, to your point. In the last 5 specifically, strength of schedule is 3rd easiest in the league. Most of those games, or all of those games without Paolo, about 7 total now, I believe, in a row without Paolo Banchero. So that's going to be a problem, obviously. But I'm staying away at this point. I would actually be leaning the other way. I know we're not on the same page on this one entirely, but your logic adds up. And if I had the cojones to tell you on that, you're also like Ty Lue's guy, man. That's your boy, right? Like, I know how much you respect that coaching staff. And so look, coaching is probably more underrated in the NBA than in most places. I think it's more important than people realize in this league. Everyone thinks stars just go out and do their thing, but there's like 6 or 7 guys that sort of supersede their coach and can do whatever they want, wherever they want, like the LeBrons and the Stephs. 99.5% of this league is based on what did the coach do? What is he saying? What's he putting into position? So I'm not going to poo-poo that notion at all. But let me go to my Knickerbockers here, who are rounding into form. I was laughed out of every room in group chat for saying that there's a world where Karl Anthony Towns leads this league in rebounding for 150-1. We talked about the other day. But either way, like that's going to be a big part of why I'm bringing that up relevant to the Knicks -5 here, because this team doesn't have a center, the Suns. Call Cat a center, whatever. I don't care. Like, yeah, he's not the best defender. In fact, he's a bad defender. But he's making up for that tenfold on offense, averaging, like the 43 PR that he's at over the course of like the last 4 or 5 games. But for Phoenix, like the struggles are real. Like at this point, if you look at their starting lineup, it's beyond in tatters. They don't have a legit power forward unless you're counting Royce O'Neal as that. Plumlee and Nurkic might play 7 minutes in this game. I don't know how you leave him in there against Cat. If you look at Cat, yes, he has given up the third worst opponent field goal percentage to the main person that he's guarding in the league. Guess who's worse than him? Yusuf Nurkic. Mason Plumlee is out there now. Like this is going to be his team at center, which is fine. I actually like that more for the Suns. But this is a jump shooting team that's not hitting jump shots. They're not getting to the rim basically at all. At this point, their rim frequency is second lowest in the league. Like they're barely getting into the paint at all. They're getting into the extended paint a bit. But guess who has the number one paint defense in the league right now? At least over the last 5 games, it has been the Knicks. And once again, that's not totally due to Karl Towns. You're getting a lot of help from the Josh Harts and OG Ananobis of the world right now. Jericho Sims not playing bad. Just throw that out there. The one thing that I could say for the Suns is that they are getting to the free throw line. A really good amount, and that's actually increased a bit since KD went down. But they've been doing that all season, trying to at least goad people into those shot fakes inside the paint, not really getting all the way to the rim for these fouls, but they're doing a lot of work inside the inside the 3-point line to get there. Just this is a Knicks team that's not going to necessarily give it up. So they have been fouling, but they've been fouling the right people because they're not giving up a very high free throw percentage on the other side. I looked at that to see because they are giving up a decent amount of free throws, but they're fouling who they want to foul because they're still in the top half of the league in opponent free throw percentage with all those free throws they're giving up. So obviously they're fouling the right people. And then on defense for Phoenix, I don't know why you would believe in this team right now. Their defensive rating 4th worst in their last 5 games, still bottom 10 on the season. This Knicks team is rounding into form. It's really just that simple. I'm going to start to believe in what they're putting together here as they've been that good for the last 4 or 5 games.
And that's what I'm saying with the Clippers, why the Magic are overvalued, because they just beat this bum-ass Suns team. And that's their best win in this 6-game stretch, True. Basically. It's East versus West. These teams mostly in the East are not on the same par, but I think the Knicks are on that top level. Right. I think just after the initial hiccups, everything you pointed out. I love Karl Anthony Towns with the spread or the money line here because of all the center issues you mentioned. So yeah, getting right into that in player props. So I'll save that. But best bets here, second one for me is another maybe a sharp lean. We'll see how it plays out. Under 239.5 at MGM for the Warriors and Hawks. And if you're thinking about an under with the Hawks and you're terrified, I get it. But the Warriors defense is what has me feeling more confident about this, that they are lights out, man, especially of the 3-point line, fast break points, limiting True. Assists. The Hawks have not been lighting people up since Trae Young got back. They've kind of been a little bit in mud on offense. I mean, 17 points per game for Trae, 103 offensive rating, but their defense sparked by his 1-game absence against Boston, right, where they were able to beat Boston with a solid defensive effort. Their defense has been at least league average. In fact, exactly league average in points, in free throws, and rating. And the pace is probably what scares you the most here, right? Because they are technically top 5 in pace. But if you look at home road splits wise, they're actually 6th and 11th with the Hawks on the road, the Warriors at home. That is, the Warriors have now been 4-4 to the under as a favorite versus 5-0 as dogs. So when they have those kind of defensive buttons they can push, they're scoring 5 fewer at home. I mean, I just think that the Hawks, with all their range, with Dyson Daniels out there, can do a decent enough job to not let the Warriors, light up 120 plus. And then I don't think they're getting 120 or, maybe even 115 against this Warriors defense the way they're playing. I will say, if you find it squeamish, keep an eye on Jalen Green for the Rockets. If he's out with his illness or it looks like he might not be a full go, that's an under 2. That's like 232. The Rockets are not going to be playing high-scoring basketball if Jalen Green's out.
I love your cojones today. Often known as a conservative bettor, you are going out and doing things that most of the public will just be like, I don't know if I believe in that at all. And I like where your head's at. I really do. I like the contrarian theory here. The pace, there's conflicting factors for the Hawks and the Dubs. One team is incredible on defense. The other is terrible. They both play really fast. The Dubs Probably going to be a little bit more offensive minded as well without D'Anthony Melton, and you get Buddy Hield about 28 to 30 minutes. So there's that to consider. But Buddy has not been a sieve on defense. He's like bought in. This is one of those things where he's kind of been on Shacked and a Fool a good amount, right? That type of player for Buddy Hield. And I'm starting to take him a lot more seriously. See JaVale McGee when he left, the Wizards essentially and went to the Dubs. But either way, like I'm not saying Buddy's a net negative on defense by any means. So don't let that sway you at all. And by the time we get up to 239.5, we're getting a little ridiculous with that total. So I don't think it's that brazen, but it's definitely a bit of a zag on that call. So let's close it out with a non-zag, and let's just ride the wave of the Cleveland Cavaliers offense, which is awesome. It is the best in the league. It did fine eventually against the Celtics. Darius Garland did not come along for the ride, and they still got to what their team total is in this game, which is 117.5 against a team that is difficult to watch in the Pelicans right now. So 118 for the Cavs is super doable. They've done it in 9 of 16 games this season. We're talking about the best offense in the league going up against the second worst defense in the league. And the Pelicans, if they were going to hang their hat on anything this season, if they had their guys, it was going to be defense and pace and space and keeping Zion as a mismatch. But they don't have any of that ability at this point. Javonte Green is guarding guys way bigger than him. Brandon Boston is guarding the other team's best ball handler, essentially. No more Jose Alvarado right now. It's tough times. Even Jordan Hawkins would help them on defense. But I think the big thing we're going to see here from the Cavs before they're eventually able to pull Garland and Mitchell in the fourth is the transition, the defense turning into transition, right? They're in the top 5, forcing turnovers on their opponent. Pelly's bottom 3 turnover percentage since Zion went down. And really, I mean, it was the same time as Herb. So you can pin it on Zion, you can pin it on all of them. And Zion would have probably only helped the other team get turnover points. But that's going to be where I start. Points off turnover, transition. That's a huge part of this. The other spots on the floor that the Cavs are just going to continue to have a ton of success, I would imagine, is going to be everywhere they want inside the paint. That's going to be huge. They are getting into the paint with the 6th highest frequency. They are scoring inside the paint at the 5th highest frequency and with the 4th best field goal percentage when they get inside the painted area. The rim, the paint, it's both the same. It's not like they're necessarily not getting all the way to the rim because they are. The rebounding and the offensive rebounding, as we know, has been helpful, but it's not something that they've relied on. Too often, before Kenny Atkinson got there, we would say, well, if Mitchell misses his threes, their best offense is that, because then at least Jared Allen is going to get the offensive board or Mobley clean it up. They're actually 5th worst in terms of offensive rebound percentage this season, which is something you might have thought would be a big deal for them, but they're 2nd in turnover percentage. So they're not wasting any possessions this season, which is huge. I mean, Kenny Atkinson coming from a system in the Dubs where I don't know how much they prioritize not turning the ball over. Maybe that was just making him pull his hair out. I thought it was funny that this coach comes in and is so heavily prioritizing turnover percentage when last year those two guards were a little bit more whimsical with the ball. And now he's like, I'm not watching the Steph Curry show here anymore where you're throwing random passes behind your back. And that's led to just a ton more possessions than most teams. And they are playing at a faster pace than last year, but that's actually still gone down a little bit in the last 2 weeks of the season. After they came out blistering hot with their pace, they've dropped back down to about middle of the pack. In those timeframes, they still have in the top 5 percentile of offensive possessions. So they're still getting the same amount of offensive possessions because they're not turning the ball over. They're just still reducing the overall tempo of the game because they don't feel the need to get out in transition against certain teams. This is one that I do think they will. I think that's just going to lead to an easy 118. And I think that these two guys will be off the floor by the time this team has 105 points in the end of the third quarter.
Yeah, man, I might mess around and lay the 2 touchdowns with the Cavs here. This Pelicans team is god awful. I mean, it's just like there's no fight on the road. Last 5 road games, negative 25 net rating, 10 points worse than even the Washington Wizards. They've lost by at least 15 in all 5 of those road games, and this is back to back on the road. Dallas to Cleveland. Cleveland maybe a little. If you either look at it as a letdown spot after losing to Boston or just bounce right back and just beat up on this bad team, get out of here with a win. So yeah, I think the team total is probably a good way to play it because we know they're going to light them up. And I don't really think the Pelicans are going to come along, so I don't mind the spread either.
Yeah, I don't mind the spread. I think this is a spot that you've identified similar to last night, where you were like, Dallas has to win. They have been too bad recently. They've lost to too many good teams in the last week. They have to win. They get the Pellies. They were up by 40 in the third at the end of the third quarter. So I can see a similar situation here. Brandon Ingram is not a happy star, a fringe star. He's not happy either way, and he's their best player. So I think we'll see a lot more of that tonight, and the frustration setting in for him when he probably has Evan Mobley draped all over him. So starting to make me realize I should probably be targeting Brandon Ingram assists tonight more so than last night. This might be a better spot for him. But at any rate, that's all the time we have for you in Best Bets. Make sure you are subscribed to that page so you can continue to follow along. Get the Play of Props episode we have up alongside this one each and every weekday, including today. Until we see you next, happy betting.